What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Eye on the U, the Miami Herald show about all things Miami Hurricanes. We're back to preview what's next for the University of Miami. I'm Andre Fernandez, your host, joined as always by Jordan McPherson, my co-pilot on this. And Jordan, well, Miami trying to recover from the hiccup that they had last week. We thought they were past this. Apparently not. It happens to a lot of college football powerhouses from time to time, but concerning because this team, as good as they looked for the first 5 games, drops one to Louisville that not a lot of people, unless you are associated with the Louisville Cardinals program, probably expected. It kind of takes their mulligan away. Now Miami's sitting at 5-1, not out of it. Didn't drop too far in the rankings, dropped from 2 to 9. So still a chance to recover for this program, but has to be pretty much error-free from the rest of the way here. Considering if you look at the ACC standings, which we will in this episode, Georgia Tech out in front. Got Virginia still undefeated in conference play. SMU is still undefeated in conference play, which magnifies next week's game. We're going to talk about Stanford, of course, in this game primarily. But yeah, I think in our little outline to pull the curtain back here, our little outline, Jordan puts here a bullet point that says, what the hell happened? So what the hell happened, Jordan? We thought this team was past this kind of thing, and Carson Beck throwing 4 picks.
No, this was just the way that I simplified it. Was this felt like one of Miami's ACC games from last year, where defense sucks early, the offense magically finds a way to come back. Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah! They'll find the comeback at the end. Except the offense didn't find the comeback at the end. The defense fell behind 14-0 through the first 2 drives. Still down by 11 going into early in the fourth quarter. And then at that point, I'm like, okay, time to write. That's that. Fumble recovery, 1 play later, touchdown. They're within 3. Holy crap, they're going to do this again. And then Carson Beck throws a 4th interception when they're in field goal range. There are 3 main things that, for me, stood out about this. One was just start the 2 things on the offensive side. The offense, the run game's become way too predictable. Their run game is basically just running up the middle, running in between the tackles, and hope the guys can break free. Didn't work against FSU, didn't work against Louisville. Number 2, this is the first time we had to see Carson Beck try to play the hero. And I said way back when, even before the Notre Dame game, they need to put themselves in a position where Carson Beck doesn't have to try to be the hero. When he tries to do too much, that's when things go haywire. We saw that with him even early in the game. They go down 14-0. He tries for a few of the deep balls. One of the Malachi Tonys in triple coverage. DB makes a good play. Interception. Second interception, a drive later, he airmails it. Interception. Third one was on a 4th down. They're down by 2 scores. It was a heave. They had a long way to go. It was going to be a turnover on downs one way or the other. The interception actually does them better because it was worse field position for Louisville. That 4th one, you get into field goal range, 30 seconds left. You have 2 timeouts. You have options. And Carson Beck does a quick throw to the right sideline. Elijah Lofton isn't looking. Miscommunication, whatever it was. Something happens. Picked off. Ball game. Those late game decisions have been the recurring issue that we've seen under Mario Cristobal. We saw it with the Georgia Tech game 2 years ago. We saw it last year a few times with their inability to come back. We've seen it 3 or 4 different times this year. The Notre Dame game where they played conservatively to get the field goal. It worked in that situation. Good for them. The FSU game, when they're up by 20, whatever, they let their foot off the gas, gave up 19 points. If they weren't up as big as they were, who knows what would have happened.
Right.
And then this last week, just figuring out how to come back in their first time where they really had to come back. Saw some head-scratching situations there. So it was just a lot of, like Andre said, a lot of the stuff that we saw in the past couple of years that we thought with this roster and with how far they've come that we thought that maybe they've finally gotten over the hump. Now it gets back to the old saying of you're still going to be questioned about it until you can prove otherwise. This would have been Exhibit A, and yet here we are again.
And coming off a bye week again. You know,
and
you want to rehash that part too, which is fair at this point. I don't know. I mean, I think an argument can be made. Did they get a little exposed? You know, this team, some of the flaws you talk about, are kind of worrisome, especially beyond, I know they're, like you said, they could still recover from this, but can they fix these problems? Because, like you said, they some of those mistakes, they're going to face better defenses than Louisville probably if they want to get to where they want to get to. I mean, yeah, I know Louisville's one of the better ones in the ACC, but if you truly are a team that can make the playoff, you're going to face better than that. And you had already earlier this season. So unfortunate that they are in this predicament once again when you look at things. So, I mean, now Stanford comes in. Yeah, you kind of look at them maybe with a little bit of, they should win this. Stress should. You should have also beaten Louisville too. And this defense, at least, the one early on, I mean, you were there in person. I was watching the game. I was also working, doing, covering potential future Hurricanes in the high school front, but also watching the game. And I think I even texted you. I said, 14-0, really? And then you had filled me in on the part I missed where there was a collision that led to the catch and all that. And I'm thinking, okay. But as that went on, alarming signs.
And I will say, I'll give the defense some credit. I mean, they go down 14-0. First drive's always a scripted drive. Jeff Brom always has something up his sleeve.
Right.
Yeah, they had the fake field goal toward the end that Miami should have better play for. I'll say that up front. But that second drive, Chris Bell's 2 touchdown catches, the one in the first quarter on the second drive and on the fourth quarter, both crossing patterns. The first one, 2 DBs, they collided trying to cover. He catches it. He's home free.
Right.
The second one,
right.
Yeah, the second one, Mo Torre and Wesley was saying both whiffed on their initial tackles, which that was the biggest issue for the Hurricanes this game. 27 missed tackles according to Pro Football Focus, the most they've had in a single game since 2021 against Michigan State. Going in, I looked at the numbers beforehand. They whiffed on about a third of their tackles in this game. They were only whiffing about 13% going in through the first 5 games. So they have to clean that part up fast. But I will say for the rest of the game, they gave up 14 points in the first 2 drives. They gave up 10 the rest of the way, 7 of them being that one Chris Bell touchdown. They gave a touchdown, the field goal the rest of the way. And that included holding Louisville scoreless on each of their drives after Carson Beck turnovers. Carson Beck turns over 4 times. The last one's kneel down, so we'll ignore that one. The other 3 interceptions, when Louisville's already up by multiple scores and could easily put the game away, Miami's defense shut them down each of those times, and they've done that all season too. Carson Beck's thrown 7 interceptions. Those are Miami's only 7 turnovers. Opposing offenses have 0 points off those 7 turnovers. So that's one notable part with this defense is they fell behind early, but this time they actually closed out strong. It was sort of the exact opposite of what we've seen all year, where it's strong early to let the offense build the lead, and then they have to hold on for dear life. This time it was more a reflection of what we saw last year, where they fell behind, and that's, holy crap, we need to figure things out. We need to get in order. And for the most part, they kind of do. But this time, again, it wasn't enough because the offense couldn't finish like the offense could last year.
Last year, I'd put money on it. 7 picks means 42 points for the opposing team minimum. Maybe even all 49 points available at that point. The way the defense last year was giving up left and right. This year, much different story. And that's the shame of it, that they really could have, even at 14-0, you didn't feel like, okay, they still can figure this out, especially the way it was kind of fluky, the way that they got especially the second TD, like you're saying. But there were signs too later on, I mean, another one too that I know we're singing the defense's praises, but the run defense has to get a little better. Isaac Brown, 113 yards on 15 carries. That's not so good. Stanford's coming in. I know Stanford, we'll talk a little bit more about them, but they're bringing in a pretty good running back themselves. They have a rookie, Cole Tabb, earned Rookie of the Week honors in the conference. So they can run the football a little bit, So, again, and they're going to see much of that. Now, you look at this Stanford team, 21 sacks given up already this season. That's an area Miami can definitely exploit when you look at Ruben Bain and those guys up front. Although Akeem Mesidor, is he all right? Because supposedly dealing with a little bit.
Mario Cristobal says he's all right. I mean, he did come back into the game. We'll have more clarity throughout the week. The ACC released its availability reports. We'll get those Thursday night, Friday night, and a couple hours before the game Saturday. So we'll have better clarity starting Thursday night. But it sounds like he's at minimum is going to play, which
that's a good sign, right?
Yeah, it definitely is. But I will say, we say the pass rush is going to be a big deal. Louisville's offensive line, graded as one of the worst in the country coming into the game. Miami only got 1 sack. It was Keontae Scott coming off the nickel corner blitz. But I mean, the defense line, it did win a lot of its battles, but Louisville showed that it can win with a quick passing game. Again, Miller Moss I think the average time he had from snap to throw was about 2.3 seconds. Can't really do a lot in 2.3 seconds if you're a pass rush. The most you do is try to generate some pressure. So if teams are picking up on that Miami thrives when it's able to force the quarterback into waiting, trying to bide its time. If they learn to just try to dink and dunk, and Miami doesn't respond to that in the cat and mouse game that is offense and defense as the season goes on, that's going to be something that they're going to have to watch out for.
Yeah, most definitely. And we're looking at Stanford with a possibility of exploiting a weakness, but then again, you're right. It didn't happen last week. But what do you think on Carson Beck? Because the start had been great. Obviously, like you said, you don't want to put him in the Cam Ward savior situation where he has to rally the troops from a ginormous deficit, which they weren't facing a ginormous deficit in this one, but you never know if they could be in another game. Fluke, or should we be a little worried about such a bad game from him?
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, Louisville's defense is good. We saw what they were able to do. It's just, it goes back to when the going gets tough, how much is he going to try to be the guy? And how much is that going to bite him? The risk reward, the decision making. This was the first real time where we really had to see it in a big situation where it determined the game. I think he'll be okay. I mean, we've seen him. He's been in big moments before. He went through 2 very successful seasons at Georgia. Team success, obviously his individual success last year was a bit of a struggle. We've talked about that multiple times, but I think he'll be okay. But he also needs the supporting cast around him to be stepping up as well. He needs his run game. He needs it so that the offense isn't one-dimensional. And it sort of became that the last 2 weeks with how ineffective the run game has been, which it's surprising considering how good they were through the first 4 weeks. They carried them in the Florida game, and then they were non-existent against FSU, but Beck was able to expose their defense, get 4 touchdown passes. Wasn't able to expose Louisville, threw 4 picks. And he needs the offensive line to be a little bit better. I still think they're grading out fine, but they know that they're not living up to their expectations and their potential. And he needs to find more than just the main 2 guys in the passing game. I wrote about this on Tuesday, how the Hurricanes passing game, it's been essentially just Malachi Toney and CJ Daniels. Granted, Malachi Toney having an absolutely fantastic year, 510 receiving yards, on pace to be the first Miami true freshman receiver to ever hit 1,000 in a season. He's on pace to basically break every freshman receiver record. CJ Daniels, 5 touchdowns, 30-some catches. Nobody else has more than 150 receiving yards on this team. Right. They need a steady third guy, whether it's Keelan Marion, whether it's Elijah Lofton, which at this point, that's sort of where the list ends because JoJo Trader's been a non-factor. Nykar's been a non-factor. Tony Johnson, the transfer from Cincinnati, has been a non-factor. Alex Bowman, the other tight end, has been a non-factor. So this group that came in with offense coordinator Shannon Dawson basically saying heading into the season, this is probably the deepest I felt that we've had, and I'm looking forward to rotating all these guys in. Nobody's really stepped up to the point where they can prove worthy of rotating in. That's going to be a problem down the line. If you're facing defenses that have a couple shutdown corners who find a way to lock down Malachi Toney and CJ Daniels, who does that go to? Who's option 3? He still doesn't know, and we're 6 weeks into this. That to me is a red flag that could be emerging down the road.
You need a third option to be able to spread the field properly, especially against some of these better teams, some of these elite defenses down the road. They got to find it. There's no question about it. They got to find it, or else this offense is going to be hopefully not figured out, but a little stagnant enough to cause concern in some of these games. And leaves Miami where we were talking about, leaves them kind of right smack in the middle right now. Obviously, Miami hasn't played as many conference games yet as some of the rest of the league has. Actually, they've played the fewest if you look at it. They're only 1-1 right now Everyone else has played 3 or more. Well, except Bill Belichick's floundering Tar Heels down there that Miami does not have to play. But the road, Georgia Tech looking like a potential playoff team, 4-0 in the conference, 7-0 overall, ranked number 7 now, the only team ahead of Miami in the rankings. Virginia still 3-0 in conference. SMU, Miami has the opportunity. If they take care of business against Stanford, that's the big an even bigger game now at Dallas on November 1st. So Miami has a game against them. So in theory, if Miami were to run the table, can move them out of the way. Pitt at 3-1, Miami will face them at the end of the regular season as well. But they're going to need somebody to beat Virginia or Georgia Tech, one of the two. And let's not forget Louisville, because now Louisville, the one team that has the head-to-head on Miami, if other teams fall and there's that 3-team situation again, you don't want, maybe somebody's going to have to take care of Louisville too. And so what's unfortunate is they're in that position again, where it's like, if this, if that, where before it was just keep going through it and you're fine, controlling your own destiny, as the cliche says. But now here we are again playing that what if scenario.
That is true, but I will counter with this. Hypothetically, Miami runs the table, which obviously we need to see what happens over the next 6 weeks, but doesn't make the ACC championship game.
Yeah, it's not
unlike last year, where
true.
They essentially needed to get in because they were in the situation where, if they were in the situation last year where going to the last week, it was when you get into the conference championship game, losing, you're out of the playoffs because of just where everything was nationally and with their schedule and the lack of a schedule, of a strength of schedule. This year, if they run the table, they're still a one-loss.
Doesn't knock them out of it.
They're still a one-loss team, and they're guaranteed to be a one-loss team going into selection day.
A one-loss team, right?
A one-loss team gets in, especially with the state of college football this year.
And think about it. If they run the table and they're a one-loss team, right now they're ranked 9th. They will be a top 10 team at that point too. So how do you deny that? So At least that they've got in their favor. But I don't know. I just want that ACC. I mean, it's like this team has never won the ACC. It's one of those things. I get it. It's not a requirement, but at the same time, you kind of want to prove you're the top dog and have the chance in it there. So it'd be regrettable if they're sort of the third odd team out, so to speak. But yeah, that is a good point, though. I mean, Miami in that scenario, but again, still so far away with a lot of games left. What are we at right now? We're at the midway point. 6 more to go. I don't know. This team of what happened last Friday gives me pause to think they can run it 6 weeks in a row. I mean, maybe they can. Maybe they're still that team we saw the first 5 weeks, but they got to figure stuff out.
We also have to look, Andre, at just what's going on nationally. I mean, we're down there. Are only a handful of undefeated teams left. We've got Ohio State's undefeated, Indiana's undefeated, A&M's undefeated, BYU's undefeated, Tech's undefeated.
Yeah, but if they're a 2-loss team.
No, I agree on the 2-loss team part, but I'm just saying, you look at a lot of these teams that are still that they're competing with as well. A lot of these 1-loss teams they're competing with still have to go against each other, especially when you look in the SEC. You're going to have a lot of teams are going to as well knock themselves out of the picture by just the nature of what their schedules are as well.
But if you end up,
I agree that Miami still needs to find a way to handle its own business, but it's just college football just feels so much different, especially this year where there are probably going to be some a couple 2-loss teams that make it in. I mean, you look at Notre Dame right now. Notre Dame's probably my biggest example right now. They have the 2 losses to start the year, to Miami and A&M. Their biggest win was USC. They're a 2-loss team that if they run the table, it looks like they're sneaking in. So it's looking like it's going to be a lot closer at the bottom, which again, it amplifies the need for it. But it also you can see how things are going to get pretty dicey down the end as you look through just how the national scale is going to be looking.
I mean, that in itself is why it worries me to think, can they be consistent enough to win 6 straight games, especially with some of these road tests? I mean, I don't know. Maybe in 2 weeks we'll see a lot more. We'll learn a lot more over the next 2 weeks from this team. I mean, responding this week, coming back, and then, of course, big road test. We still don't know the time for that SMU game. We don't know if it's going to be a primetime night game out there in Dallas or a day game, for what it's worth. But I don't know. And then even after that, it's just again, I think I led off with the show saying I thought we were past this. Apparently not, because, even let's say they do win these next two, then you're looking at winnable games.
Yeah.
But what stops you from being afraid that there could be a hiccup against the Syracuse or someone else? And then, of course, at the finish line, you can't underestimate road games. Even Virginia Tech, that's not very good. It's a road game.
Yeah.
It's that's the alarm bells that go off. You always have that little bit of concern, respect when obviously that's why you play each week. But it's like this loss to Louisville just set everything off again. In terms of and I'm sure a lot of fans feel the same way, great, I thought we were better than this.
Yeah. Yep. That's definitely true. But I will just say, let's take it week by week. Yeah. That's true. That's really, at this point, it's not like the sky's completely fallen. It's not like everything.
No, it hasn't.
From under them. It very well may be a blip in the radar. I understand from the fan standpoint, just every time it seems like everything's finally going right, something happens. Let's wait until something completely happens. We still have 6 weeks. There's still time to see what could happen. And again, it's 12 teams make the field. It's not back in the BCS days where one loss completely kills you. It's not like the 14 playoff where one loss almost guaranteed to kill you.
Agreed.
There are still paths. But
there's a lot of, we've seen the sky fall several times in over the years, and I think that's why it's a little bit now everyone's on. If you're a Canes fan, I think you're on a little more on edge the rest of the season now than you were before last week. But like you said, if we're going to do one at a time, that's a perfect segue to look at Stanford, a team that's still, many picked at the basement of the ACC for obvious reasons, but they're doing a little better. They fired their coach. They hired Frank Reich, who was a familiar name for not only Hurricanes fans, but for Dolphins fans too. If they remember back in the day with Buffalo, he came in and I know the Houston Oilers will never forget getting that game snatched away from them. But Hurricanes fans this is kind of like our funny, Andre's old moment here. Don't need to be reminded of what Frank Reich did to Miami back in '84 when he brought the Maryland Terrapins, who he played for, back from a 31-0 deficit in that stadium that's behind me, and beat the Hurricanes in a memorable game, infamous game. If you're a Miami Hurricanes fan, and this week Frank Reich was asked about it by Stanford media. They were like, "Are you advising your team that the key is drop the first 31 points to Miami and then come storming back and beat them?" He laughed, of course, shook it off. He had to expect that question this week and said, "No, this team is too good defensively to do something like that, obviously." And but Stanford, in all seriousness, is probably a little bit better than people thought. Now, most of the damage they've done has been at home out on the West Coast. They beat Florida State last week, a wild finish. Seemed like FSU had 5 different chances to tie that game on that final drive and found a way to screw it up every time, which is why they're in the predicament they're in. But Stanford itself, 3-4. They've had 3-win seasons the last few years. Now they're at 3 wins already. But they haven't been able to figure it out on the road. So this is a team that, again, Miami should in all caps, be able to beat. They're 28-point favorites, it looks like. They got to win this one.
Well, they definitely have to win this one. There's no question about it. And also, just interesting nugget, first time ever Miami against Stanford, ever.
Yes.
So
in other sports, it's happened. Baseball a few times. I think tennis, I don't, one year, I think there was a national championship, I think, decided between those two, but never in football. I mean, that's what happens. You stick these West Coast teams in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Well, I mean, we're calling it the All Coast Conference now, right? All Coast, and then whatever coast we consider SMU near. I mean,
exactly. SMU at least is optional. They're right in the middle, but Cal and Stanford, there you go.
Yeah, but no, this is a game that they need to win. I mean, you look at Stanford again. All 3 of their wins are at home, and those were against Boston College, San Jose State, and whatever the heck that FSU game was. I actually stayed up to watch the end of that. Crazy, I know. But I was filling out again. I'm an AP ballot voter, so I was filling out my ballot during the first half of that game because I had to wait for BYU, Utah to finish. Right. And I was like, you know what? Let's just see what happens. And let's see what happens. I'll watch that. I'll get some of my writing, a head start on my stuff for Sunday, and then that last drive, backup quarterback in because Castellano got knocked out, throws a Hail Mary of a 50-yard pass again within range, a DPI as time expired to get them at the 2 and get one untimed play. The running back flip, and I thought he was in. I honestly thought he was in live. And then they go to the replays, and it's, an FSU guy's blocking the camera. We can't tell from that angle. Sorry, FSU. It's like,
I know. That's hilarious.
Just damn.
It's just, I know. And then what a firestorm of a week, no pun intended, with Napier out, Norvell on the hot seat, but FSU saying we're going to evaluate at the end of the year, whatever that means. I guess, reprieve for now.
Evaluate right now.
That Brinks truck, they're like, whoa, nope, not yet. We might be able to soften the blow here a little bit if we can ride this out for for the rest of this season. But yeah, the Stanford team, again, Miami is definitely obviously the clear favorite. But I mean, they've got a few things. Again, we talked about it. They seem to be vulnerable in pass protection. Miami has to play to their strengths there. The running game is a good thing for Stanford, it seems, these first few weeks. Miami can't let this happen where they let this kid Tab or anyone else run it up on them. So I think the keys are pretty obvious.
As well. Again, both their running backs, Ford and Tab, combined 737 yards and 5 touchdowns so far this year. So they're averaging combined about 115 yards a game.
Yeah. So again, it's just show up and do what you do best, and put the loss in your rearview mirror. That's the keys to the game. I mean, I don't know how much else needs to be said except Miami just has to get back on track.
Yeah, that sums it up perfectly. Just go in there, handle your business, flush what happened last week, and just take this as if it's the start of a new season and just go.
And I think in a night game setting too, it's a good thing because they just lost in a night game setting. I know those are little intangibles, but I feel like, okay, if the spotlight's on you again, maybe not against a marquee opponent, but that's what you're going to be in for the most part for the rest of the season. You're going to be playing these teams that you're favored to beat. So show up, get it done. That's simple as that. So, well, I guess we'll be back next week to see how it went against the Stanford Cardinal for the Hurricanes and look ahead to their next game, which, assuming Miami doesn't have a much, much worse hiccup against the Cardinal, builds up to be a pretty important one in the ACC race because it's Miami, SMU. We'll talk all about Rhett Lashley playing the Hurricanes against the Hurricanes again and all that good stuff. It didn't happen. Well, actually, it didn't happen last year. We were thinking it was going to happen in the ACC title game and never did.
It was a 21-point lead against Syracuse away from happening.
Right, and never did. So now Miami has a defense, and SMU still has that high-powered offense, but they've been a touchdown this year, but they are at home, and again, undefeated in conference play as of right now. So if that stays, if that is still the case going into next week's game, obviously a very important one for both sides. So we'll be back to preview it on Eye on the U. Remember, you can catch us on YouTube, catch all of Jordan's work at MiamiHerald.com as well. And until then, enjoy the games, everybody. Thanks for watching Eye on the U.